every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love.
My dear friends, Bob and Alberta, lived in the town of Freeport, Illinois, 6 miles from the farm where I grew up. When I became close friends with them, they were already an older couple. They had a business in their home. Many people, including my parents, went to them to renew state licenses for cars and trucks. But most people never knew the sex lives of this ordinary-looking, older, white couple. Bob told me if the people of that town knew how he felt on sex and on politics, he would be run out of town. Bob supported justice and equality for black people, for women, for poor people. Bob was against U.S. wars. Bob and Alberta were open and honest with each other about their sex with other people. Little or no jealousy. They had 2 bisexual male friends, and Alberta got turned on sexually seeing these 2 men have sex. And seeing her turned on turned Bob on. Bob copied some gay sex tapes for me. He invited me to come watch his straight sex videos with him. He said he could watch the beautiful women and I could watch the handsome men. Bob had sex with other women besides Alberta, including a Catholic nun friend. Alberta had sex with other men. I still have a cassette tape that Bob gave me maybe 25 years or more ago, a conversation he and Alberta had in bed as they had sex. And Bob was asking Alberta about the sex she and a hot young man friend had earlier. Hearing how turned on Alberta was in sex with that hot young man turned Bob on, and he kept asking her on this cassette tape that I still have at home, he kept asking her questions to get her to tell more. One special man Alberta had sex with, she made a popsicle from some of his cum. She kept the popsicle in their freezer, and she would take it out sometimes and suck it as she thought of that man. The men and women Bob and Alberta had sex with were their friends, not strangers. I wish I could remember all that Bob told me about their sex lives. Bob died at 94 in 2005. Alberta died over 14 years before Bob. They were married 48 years when she died. Alberta was Bob's #1 woman. And after her death from cancer, he found no woman as special as Alberta. They both were very, very kind to me. They lived not in Paris, not in New York, not in San Francisco. They lived in Freeport, a town of 20-some thousand people, and were sexually active behind closed doors in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. They were far more sexually liberated than many uptight, jealous young couples today. The many married women and men who have sex with other people, but sadly deny and lie to each other. I dedicate this program tonight to my dear friends, Bob and Alberta. If you love your young friends and relatives, do your damnedest to discourage them from joining the world's most deadly terrorist gang, the U.S. military. Many youth who are fed up with strict parents, with school principals, get baited into the much worse U.S. military. The U.S. military trains and equips these young people to be professional, hired killers, to murder on command people who might have been their close friends if they all had lived on the same street. Soldiers so poisoned to murder with no guilt. Soldiers excusing their murders with, "I'm just following orders. You can't blame me." Soldiers told by the paid military chaplains killing other human beings in war is their noble, patriotic duty approved by God. Insane. Some soldiers become more afraid of being put down by buddies and families back home if they express shame and guilt and fear about killing in war, more afraid of being seen as wimps than they are of being shot by the enemy on the battlefield. Soldiers crippling, blinding, making homeless, killing kids and old people. Crimes which would put them in prison for years or life if they had done these evils to other people in the United States. The U.S. military, worse than any street gang or crazy cult. Watch on YouTube or wherever you can find it on the internet, Sir, No, Sir. Sir, No, Sir. A documentary, powerful documentary about the huge movement of U.S. soldiers who had the guts and the conscience to oppose the Vietnam War, and they helped to end that war. Sir, No, Sir. Watch it. I wrote a letter to the father of MMA fighter and boxer Holly Holmes. Her father is Roger Holmes, a preacher here in New Mexico. I wrote him just the other day. Pastor Roger Holmes, I'm a 76-year-old, longtime activist on many concerns. I was a sincere young Christian preacher 56 years ago in Virginia and Illinois. I am no longer a believer. I'm deeply indebted to a great variety of many people who have taught me loved me, inspired me. The bonobo apes of Africa are very closely related to us. We share about 98% of the same genes as the bonobos. The bonobos settle conflicts with sex, and never in the wild, and never in a zoo has a bonobo been seen killing a bonobo. They live, make love, not war. Female and male, male and male, female and female, old and young, they give and receive sexual pleasure a lot. But sadly, many Christian moms and dads cheer their sons, causing pain, bruises, and injuries on men as boxers or MMA fighters. Sadly, many Christian moms and dads cheer their daughters, causing pain, bruises, injuries on women as boxers or MMA fighters. I came out as a gay man to my mother when I was 31 in 1976, shortly after I first had sex with a man. A few years later, my mother told me she wished she could be a mouse in the corner to watch me have sex with a man. And sadly, that never happened. She never saw me have sex with a man. I wish she had. She died in 1982. My mother was my all-time closest friend. Why is cheering sons and daughters causing pain, bruises, injuries considered okay by many Christian moms and dads? Why is a parent watching sons giving and receiving sexual pleasure with men, or a daughter giving and receiving sexual pleasure with women, considered weird, obscene, wrong? Why are many Christians far more at home with violence than affectionate sex between persons not married? Why are many Christians in love with guns? Why are many Christians in love with violent movies and video games? Why are many Christians in love with war? Can we learn from the bonobos? Will we learn from the bonobos how to live nonviolently, enjoying giving each other sexual pleasure? The U.S. did 66 atomic and hydrogen bomb tests that took place on the Bikini Atoll, Marshall Islands, during the 1940s and 50s. 66 atomic and hydrogen bomb tests the U.S. did at those islands. The U.S. and government intentionally left the inhabitants of a neighboring island behind. Why? In order to gauge the effects of radioactive fallout on human beings. Were we taught that in school? Hell no. Not most of us. One older woman told of giving birth to lifeless blobs of flesh, stillborn infants, the end result of genetic mutations brought on by massive exposure to radioactive fallout. Children born with horrible birth defects, leaving them with no muscle coordination. And this is what the United States did to those people in those islands, not giving a damn for their health. Absolutely evil. To all romantic couples, whether you're two men, a man and woman, two women, do you tell each other clearly what turns you on, what turns you off in making love? Some people may want the other person to bite their nipples or another part of the body during sex, but not I. I want no bites. I want body pleasure, not pain. And some people consider the asshole dirty and do not want to lick it. I'm glad, very glad, to lick the asshole of a healthy, clean man if he's attracted to me and if I'm attracted to him. My friend Steve here in Albuquerque gave me many years ago the wonderful pleasure of having my ass licked. And I learned from him to enjoy giving that pleasure to other men, licking their assholes. And one doctor told me that mouths have more germs than assholes. I don't know. Couples, if the other person is tired or feeling sick, not in the mood for whatever reason, do you accept their not now without pressuring them, without pouting? Are you free to tell each other when you're sexually attracted to other persons and why? And maybe even enjoy guessing which persons in a crowd your partner finds attractive. Are you both learning that romance for many people is not a cage, not a trap, not a chain, not a cell? Many people openly and honestly are in love and make love with more than one person at the same times in their lives. Couples, are you free to share with each other your sexual histories? The good and the bad. The lessons you've learned from your family about sex and your own sex with yourself and with other people. Are you open with each other? No lies, no bullshit, no cover-up, just laying it out on the line, the truth. Do you welcome any questions from your partner about sex? If a man or a woman loves hot sex, is he or she attracted to only one person in their whole life? I've never met such a person. One of the many damn lies some parents tell their young sons is, men don't cry. And sadly, those boys often grow up to deny their feelings of sadness by violence against people as gang members, soldiers, cops, families, covering up their feelings of sadness by violence. Their sadness turns into awful rage. Fits of rage instead of healing orgasms of tears of loving sadness. And one man who was beaten by his dad when he was a boy made up his mind back then to show no feeling, no tears, to keep his dad from getting satisfaction in beating him. As an adult man, he is not able to show feeling. He knows people may think he's cold, but he says they have no idea what goes on inside him. He has deep feelings, but he learned long ago not to show those feelings when his dad was beating him. We need to remember not to judge a book by its cover. Some people who seem cold and distant may deep inside have tremendous, strong feelings. I love my tears of love and sadness. Men, be careful how much you lift, how many pounds, because we men, I guess much more than women, can cause hernias in our groin if we lift too much, too often, and in the wrong way. I had small hernias on both sides 35 years ago already. And maybe 18 years ago, a very attractive bisexual black surgeon visited me at my home. And I had this surgeon look at my hernias. He told me, if they do not bother you, leave them alone. Well, I like to hear that, especially coming from a surgeon, because I greatly fear surgeries, needles, pain. In the last year or so, my right hernia has become much larger than it used to be. And fortunately, so far, it is not painful. But that could change any time. Many times when I was a teenager and in my 20s, my mother had me go into our town's candy store to buy boxes of candy as gifts. Did she fully realize that sugar is slow poison? Did I fully realize that sugar is slow poison? Hell no. When I went into the Union Dairy in our town and bought ice cream cones for her and for me, and quarts of ice cream to take home, to put in our freezer on the farm, did I fully realize how she would suffer severely for many years and die from kidney disease? Did I realize how I would lose my teeth? How I would suffer 23 holes and weak spots in the retinas of my two eyes causing surgery on those retinas when I was 28 here in Albuquerque because of my severe addiction to sugar and other junk food. Learn from my mistake. If you're pigging out on sugar and other junk food, stop now. Why suffer? The young Roman Catholic Chicana nun, Sister Diana Ortiz, went to Guatemala in Central America to serve people there. Sister Diana Ortiz grew up in Grants, New Mexico. She lived in a village in Guatemala. She enjoyed working with the children. And on November 2nd, 1989, the Guatemalan government kidnapped Sister Diana Ortiz, a Roman Catholic Chicana nun, brutally tortured her. Dozens of cigarette burns on her back. The torturers gang raped her. They threw Sister Diana Ortiz in a pit of dead and dying people. And one of the torturers took Diana's arm, put a machete in her hand, and forced her to stab a Guatemalan woman who was also being tortured. After Sister Diana was released, she found out she was pregnant from the gang rape. She had an abortion. And for years, as a fervent Catholic, she felt awful guilt and shame about having an abortion. Sister Diana Ortiz suffered for years terrifying flashbacks of her horrific torture. Sister Diana Ortiz testified to Guatemalan authorities and to United States authorities. She demanded the United States to make public how the U.S. strongly supported the torture and murder of hundreds of thousands of people in Guatemala. How much of that did we who are old enough hear on mainstream news? Not nearly enough if we heard anything. Students, trade union leaders, priests, nuns, people who had the conscience and courage to stand up against the filthy rich big shots who ran Guatemala and kept most people suffering in poverty. Many of these committed conscientious activists were tortured and murdered by the Guatemalan government, which was strongly supported by the United States government. The U.S. government overthrew Guatemala's democratically elected president in 1954. And some people think the U.S. supports democracy, human rights. Bullshit. In many nations, the U.S. government sides with the filthy rich on top to keep the many poor people down. Why? So U.S. corporations can rob the resources, the cheap labor of working people there. But as Sister Diana Ortiz tells us in her heart-wrenching book, most U.S. government officials lie constantly and do their damnedest to keep us who live in this country ignorant about the U.S. atrocities, the torture, the murder of hundreds of thousands of our sisters and brothers in Central America and in many nations. U.S. federal income tax dollars paid for the weapons U.S. trained Guatemalan soldiers to torture and murder the people of Guatemala. I have paid no federal income tax, not one damn bloody penny, for 43 years. And I pledge never to do so the rest of my life. Read Sister Diana Ortiz's book, The Blindfold's Eyes, My Journey from Torture to Truth. That's Sister Diana Ortiz, originally from Grants, New Mexico. Her book I highly recommend if you want the truth instead of the half-assed bullshit we often hear in the news in this country. The title, The Blindfold's Eyes, My Journey from Torture to Truth. Why are many men ashamed to be seen in public crying for someone they loved who died? Why are many men ashamed to wear bright colors? Some male animals are more colorful than the female of that kind of animal. Native American men dress very colorfully in their traditional dances. Why are many men proud to beat and bloody and bruise a man as men and women, fans, cheer them? Why are many men ashamed of feeling sexually attracted to their longtime buddy? Why would a man threaten to kill a longtime friend who tells other people he wants sex with a man? Why would many men not have the balls to come out as gay or bisexual, even in places where they would not be arrested, they would not be beaten up for being gay or bisexual? Why are many men ashamed to admit they love beautiful flowers as much as any woman loves beautiful flowers? Why are many men ashamed to be seen crying at a heart-touching movie? Why are many men in love with their guns? Why would any man want to own a gun? Why do many men prefer to show anger rather than tenderness? Why do many men find it so hard to apologize and to admit they were wrong? I am glad to cry when I love someone deeply. Men can become as free to shed tears of love and sadness as they are to orgasm and come in hot sex with women or with men. I very much want to be reunited with all my loved ones in a much better life and place after death, but I strongly doubt that happens. And no matter how much we want something, that does not make it true. For thousands of years, many people around the world believed their rain dances or their prayers brought rain. And some people now believe their prayers will even help them find a parking space for their car. Often religion of whatever brand, not just Christianity, often religion of whatever brand is feel good, make believe, bullshit for adults. Magical thinking that makes no sense. I aim to keep making new friends and young friends until the day I die. I want to always treasure my old friends of whatever age. I want to always treasure my old friends, both living and dead. But if we live to be old, and if we did not keep making new, younger friends, we may end up friendship bankrupt. My dear friend Bob in Illinois died at 94, as I mentioned at the beginning of this program. He had known many people in his business. He had friends, but most died before he died. In one of his last letters to me, Bob wrote, "To my one and only friend." How sad. I learned from Bob not to become friendship bankrupt. Keep making new friends, young friends, until the day we die. What good are lots of money and property if our body is very sick, or if we have not kept in touch with our living old friends? What good are lots of money and property if we have not kept making new friends, or if we fear that people want us just because of our money? I do not want much more money and stuff than what I have right now. I have enough. I would not trade places with any millionaire, any billionaire on earth. I would be ashamed as hell, to live that way in a world where many millions are sick, hungry, suffering, with no home. How well can we teach kids to live fairly in our families if we adults have and buy far more than what we need in our world family of almost 8 billion sisters and brothers? Most video games are violent. They poison the mind. I play no video games. I have far better, more interesting things to do with my mind and my time. Many old people who are sick wish they had taken care of their health when they were young. Eating healthy, exercising, not boozing, not smoking, getting enough sleep. Sadly, for many, too soon, old, too late, smart. When a close loved one dies, we will grieve forever. We will not get over the loss of a close loved one. We will learn to live with that loss. We will heal, we will rebuild ourselves around the loss we have suffered. We will be whole again, we can enjoy life again, but we will never be the same as we were before that close loved one died. Nor should we be the same, or would we want to be the same. And every day, that person is still gone. I'm still here. So are you. We extend our hands to those whose losses are fresh and raw, those whose losses are etched deeply now on their hearts. And we remind each other that while these grief anniversaries may seem like lonely occasions, we are not alone in grieving for loved ones gone. We remind each other to keep breathing through our grief anniversaries in this different normal. If we give a damn about the climate crisis, if we give a damn about saving water, if we give a damn about water pollution, about saving forests, if we give a damn about cruelty to animals, if we give a damn about all hungry people worldwide having enough to eat, if we give a damn about our own health, stop eating all meat and dairy. Now, some people, when they see it, the truth in their mind, stop immediately, and that's it. For other people, it works better to stop gradually. If you're used to eating meat and dairy every day of the week, 3 times a day, well, go to 2 times a day or every other day. Whatever works for the goal of eating no meat and dairy, no cheese, no milk, no ice cream, no eggs. As bad as using cars and planes, eating meat and dairy is one huge cause of climate chaos. Far more people can be fed from the same amount of farmland growing grain and seeds and nuts and greens and vegetables and fruit for people to eat directly than by growing crops on that same farmland to feed cows and pigs and chickens and then people eating those animals. Watch the powerful documentary Cowspiracy, one word, Cowspiracy, Cowspiracy, on Netflix or wherever on the internet. My parents ran the oldest cattle and hog auction market in our county in Illinois, where I grew up. And sadly, I worked part-time in that cruel business for many years. I participated in the cruelty to those animals. I stopped eating all meat, all dairy, many years ago. We can wake up. We can change our ways. Many people in government, many people working in newspapers, radio, and TV news refuse to speak the truth about U.S. government atrocities, about the massive crimes of corporations, about the insanities of all religions, because these people in government or in the news departments of newspapers, radio, and TV are scared of having to live on much less money if they get fired for speaking the truth. They fear being labeled weird, un-American, hell-bound atheists, being rejected by relatives, neighbors, co-workers, even longtime friends. And these fears paralyze many people here in the United States, just as Russia's severe law locking up for years any Russian with conscience who publicly damns Putin's war against Ukraine. We pay a price if we confront our society's evils, idols, insanities. And with some freedom of speech left here, the test of our conscience and our commitment is not our secret ideals, what we say, not what we say in private conversations with our closest friends. The test of our commitment to truth is what we're willing to risk: money, job, reputation, friends, status, to live those ideals, to speak and live the truth as best we see it publicly every day. If the mother eats and lives healthy, breastfeeding is best for the baby. Less upper respiratory and digestive problems for the baby. Breastfeeding protects against allergies and many future illnesses in that child. Breastfeeding from a healthy mother makes the baby smarter, helps prevent crib death. Healthy mothers breastfeeding your child as long as you and the child want to. Never feel ashamed of breastfeeding your child if your child still wants to, even if the child is 3 years or older. And why expect a tiny baby to spend the night alone when a few days old? Is it good for these tiny babies to cry hopelessly until they fall asleep exhausted? Would we do this to a newborn puppy? You cannot give a baby too much love. Cuddle her. Cuddle him. Soothe her or him. Sing to her or him. Rock your baby. Hug your baby. Kiss your baby. Love your baby. And babies who are held, nursed until they want to stop, babies who are allowed to get into their parents' bed when they're afraid at night, babies who are told over and over how beautiful and precious they are, they do not grow up to be brats. They're not unusually afraid or depressed. Mothers and fathers, look in your baby boy's eyes, look in your baby girl's eyes, and follow your heart. And even if your own parents weren't that affectionate, Learn from what you missed and make up your heart and mind to give that child of yours all the affection that you can give. If you suffer depression, some things that can help: get enough sleep every night, 8 to 9 hours, no exceptions. And it's better to go to sleep between 8 and 9, between 9 and 10, or maybe 8 and 9 for some people, and get up between 6 and 7. Far better, if you're serious about defeating depression, than going to bed at midnight or later and then getting up long after the sun's up. Eat only healthy food if you're depressed, or if you just want to feel good. No crap, no sugar shit, no factory fake food, no McDonald's, nothing with artificial sweeteners, no sodas. Drink no booze. Booze depresses. Booze is a depressant. So if you're depressed, why in the hell drink booze? Why would anybody drink booze? Spend time in the sunshine most days. Sunshine can lift our mood. And if it's too hot in the middle of the day, well, early in the morning after the sun comes up, or early in the evening before the sun sets. And if you're able, take long walks most days outside in nature. Do other exercises. Fall in love with making your body as healthy as possible. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself and forgive others. Apologize to people you have hurt. Reach out to other people to listen, to care. Make close friendships. Close friendships. And if you want the other person to bare their soul and tell you the truth about their life, take the lead in opening your heart to that person. Cooking destroys most of the nutrients in raw plant foods. Cooking destroys most of the nutrients in raw plant foods, in greens, vegetables, seeds, nuts, lentils, fruit. So that means cooking destroys most of the labor, the resources, the energy which went into growing that food, marketing that food, preparing that food. Cooking food is one of the biggest wastes of resources on earth. And most food in the world is cooked by fire from wood. So cooking is one big cause of forests being cut down. And in this time of the climate crisis, we especially need forests to soak up the carbon dioxide and to give off the oxygen we need. I know that many cooked food, like pinto beans, sweet potatoes, taste good. And if you're eating cooked food still, pinto beans, sweet potatoes are some of the most nutritious cooked foods. And I loved them many years ago. I was addicted to cooked food, but with much help, I changed. I stopped cooking my food December 12th, 1998, over 23 years ago. And one reason that human cancer cells grow and multiply on cooked food is that cooking destroys the oxygen in raw plant foods. Cancer grows where there is little or no oxygen. So one reason lots of vigorous exercise helps to prevent cancer is vigorous exercise brings more oxygen to our body's cells. One of my favorite poems, I don't know who wrote it, Handwriting on the Wall. A weary mother returned from the store, lugging groceries through the kitchen door, awaiting her arrival. Was her 8-year-old son, anxious to tell her what his younger brother had done. While I was out playing and Dad was on a call, TJ took his crayon and he wrote on the wall. It's on the new paper you just hung in the den. I told him you'd be mad at having to do it again. She let out a moan and furrowed her brow. Where is your little brother right now? She emptied her arms and with a purposeful stride, she marched to his closet where he had gone to hide. She called his full name as she entered his room. He trembled with fear. He knew that meant doom. And for the next 10 minutes, this mother ranted and raved about the expensive wallpaper and how she had saved, lamenting all the work it would take to repair. She condemned his actions, his lack of care. And the more she scolded, the madder she got, and then stomped from his room, totally distraught. She headed for the den to confirm her worst fears. But when she saw that wall, her eyes flooded with tears. The message she read pierced her soul with a dart. It said, I love Mommy, surrounded by a heart. Well, the wallpaper remained just as she found it, with an empty picture frame hung to surround it, a reminder to her and to us all. Take time to read the handwriting on the wall. Good night. To your health, my fresh piss.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love, let the music get you high, and when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine on. And when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine.